Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications.
Hope you're doing well today. It is June the 7th, and we are getting closer to the anniversary date, the 32nd anniversary of when Maitreya started to appear quite regularly to religious groups of all kinds all over the world. And he started and kicked the whole thing off quite famously by appearing out of the blue in Nairobi, Kenya, to Maria Katsa and her Christian following. And I want to talk more about it on the anniversary date itself, but it was quite an extraordinary day. But the pictures that I have, either in my video, I don't have it in this one. I'm going to talk about what this picture is in this video. But the pictures that we all have seen of Maitreya in Nairobi, Kenya, with the beard and the white headdress kind of thing, looks kind of like a turban, kind of not, was how that group was expecting Jesus to come back. So that's not how Maitreya looks. That's how this group of fundamentalist Christians were expecting Jesus to look. So to think that Maitreya would be talking on TV wearing that garb is kind of like nonsense. But he's, on TV now, but he's speaking in a way, that he doesn't draw attention to himself as any kind of Messiah figure, but he doesn't look like that, is my point. So when you are watching TV, don't look for Maitreya, don't seek him out, don't search for him or anything like that. I know the title of my video is Search for Signs, but it's not Search for Maitreya. So, because Maitreya would say, if you run after him, you've already lost him. So the best thing to do is just watch TV the way you watch TV, and if you start hearing somebody on TV saying something that kind of sounds like this, it may be him, it might not, and then it's for you to come up with, and to discover it on your own and recognize Maitreya for yourself. Hopefully that helps. But this picture is a picture of one of Benjamin Creme's paintings. It's called The Chalice, and it symbolizes the love of the Christ for the world. And it's supposed to be, you're kind of looking down on this chalice, and the chalice is on fire. And so he was saying that his master either inspires the painting, helps him with the color a little bit, helps him paint from time to time, guides his hand. So his master has a hand, literally, in every one of his paintings. And so Benjamin Creme he produced lithographs every year for the Share International groups mainly, and they're quite beautiful. I own a few of them myself, and I know my friends who know this information, own a few for themselves too. But all his paintings, or not all of them turned into lithographs, but there's a museum out in California called it's the Benjamin Creme Museum. And if you ever find your way out in LA, I do recommend checking out his artwork, because all his artwork is esoteric in nature, and there are also esoteric principles and teachings within all of his paintings. They're quite extraordinary. And when Benjamin Creme would describe his paintings, it was like, wow, I didn't see that, but then you look at it every time, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Alrighty, so just trying to switch up the images on the back of my, the background of my videos to kind of shake things up a little bit. Hopefully that helps. Alright, first comment. Ricardo, I won't even try the last name. Quote unquote, a bug or a slug, a wonderful sense of humor. Well, thank you. A bug or a slug? Yep, I just said that, and that's a shameless plug, my friend. That's my dad humor coming out. I actually worked with a coworker, and I told her a joke about something. I can't remember what it was. And she turned to me and she goes, Gary, you got a lot of dad jokes. And I went, wait, did you say dad or bad? She goes, yes. Turns around and walks away. So, but thank you. I appreciate, at least somebody got my sense of humor on that. But it was actually, I don't even know if I was trying to be funny about it. It's like sometimes when I'm not trying to be funny, people laugh. And when I try to be funny, people don't laugh. So I guess the other insect that would be a part of the animal kingdom would be crickets, and that's what you hear if you tell a really, really bad joke, Ricardo, is you just hear crickets. All right, so a few questions to answer, and if you have a question about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, please feel free to post that question as a comment, and the most recent video would be great. You can also email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. All right. First comment / question-ish comes from Towson, and he put a lot of questions-ishes in my comments, so I'll try to go through a few of them. All right, and please not just sons. Okay, he's talking about the fact that Benjamin Creme's master keeps referring to humanity as the son of man, or Maitreya as the son of man. He says, "You stupid men, children." Ooh, this is getting kind of ugly. Beings, okay, men. It's irritating that you stupid men forget female. You men think too much of yourselves. Well, actually, it's not that they're thinking too much of themselves as men. There are two divine evolutions on this planet. The first one is the sons of mind. That's humanity, because we evolve through the process of the use of our mind. And then there's the daughters of feeling, which are the divas. Those are the angels, not the angels that people think that are saving them from accidents. Those are the masters. But there is a parallel evolution they're called the divas. They're the angel evolution. And those are the daughters of feeling, because they actually evolve from feeling life as it is at this moment. But they range anywhere from subhuman, and divas actually make up and keep together all the material construction that we have, our physical bodies, those kind of things. But then there are also divas that are on the human level, that same kind of, with the various gradations of consciousness within that grade. And then there's those divas that are above and beyond, where humanity is more on the line of masters or above masters. And the logoses of planets and solar systems that entire planets or solar systems themselves are actually divas, huge divas, great divas. But that's what he's talking about. It's not that they're full of themselves as men or any kind of misogynistic type of thinking. Not at all. In fact, the information about the masters, the first three people to come to bring it forth to the public. First one was Helena Blavatsky, a woman. The second one was Helena Roach, a woman. And then the third one was Alice Bailey, a woman. So they know that the influence of the woman over the next age is going to be far greater than it was over the previous 2,000 years, where men dominated women and so forth. And as Benjamin Creme put it, the age of Aquarius is the age of the woman. So it is the age of Tara, is what he said. So not to worry on that one, Tao. So your concern and your irritation are misplaced. But they refer to man as man because that's what we are. But if we were all divas, they would be referring to all of us as daughters, or I don't know, women, I guess, or whatever. But not women, but you know what I mean. And so even the male divas are considered daughters of feeling. And so it's just two types of energy, really, is what it amounts to. But all of us, including the masters, have been men and women, women and men, women, men. I mean, it just depends on what incarnation they're in. So hopefully that helps. All right. Now this one comes from a fundamentalist Christian, where he says, and there was a bunch of comments that he put up, and I had to kind of thin them out, but reincarnation is a lie. It's actually not a lie. And Christians misread their own scriptures on nearly everything. And if you put 100 fundamentalist Christians in a room and you have them read the same scripture, they're all going to give you different interpretations, which is fine. The problem is that they all think they're right. Reincarnation was a lot more in the Bible and than was left in there now. But the three big verses that talk about reincarnation, first one is Matthew 16:13 through 20. Who do the people say that I am? And was what Jesus asked his disciples. And they came up with all sorts of answers, from the prophets, different types of prophets, to John the Baptist, even to Elijah come back again. And then he said something about, in Matthew 11, I think is what it is, when they were asking about John the Baptist, And he said, don't you remember what I said? He's Elijah come back, you know. And then the last one that was kind of left in there, either on purpose or by mistake, is the when Peter, I think, and the group of disciples were going into the temple, and they see that man who was born blind that was begging, and he turned to Jesus and he goes, was that because of his sin or because of his father? So had he been born blind, why would that have been his sin, quote unquote? So I don't think it's a lie from Satan at all. I think it's a truth. And just as the Buddha said, there's no religion higher than truth. Well, even if you don't believe in reincarnation, it's still there. It's still waiting for you, and we all have to come back and deal with it. And so it's the other law is the law of cause and effect. So it is what it is. Now, this next comment comes from Jules Elbeshausen. Sorry if I mispronounced that name too. I do apologize. We need more explorations of the spiritual dimension, which is why the Theosophical Society and discussions about its literature and its authors and their concepts are so desperately needed in these transformative times. So gracias, dankeschön, and thank you for your excellent work. Well, thank you, Jules. I appreciate that. You are very kind for your thanks, or your thanking me and everything. I really do appreciate it. It's going to, Jules, at the end of this video, I'm going to read one of Benjamin Creme's master's article about the continuity of consciousness, and I picked it out based on what you had said, so hopefully it will help. All right, now more from Tao Zen Chi, who posted a lot. Atlantis all perished. This civilization might perish too. Well, I sure hope not. The majority is not totally into spiritual right, mainly barely surviving. Well, that is true. And then the next question that would kind of trigger me a little bit was, even if another civilization perishes, so what? Well, it's not very nice to say there, Tao, but if that's your belief, that's your belief. Maitreya would say, and Maitreya's been living in England for a while, so he would say, not bloody likely, when you ask, do you think that, if this civilization is going to perish? He knows the hearts of humanity throughout. He knows what everybody's saying. And he knows that within the hearts of all of us, really, is the longing, the desire for unity and peace. Now, not all of us are going to act toward that in the most recent of futures, but only 1.5 billion of us will see the need and see the opportunity to help save the planet. And save each other, really, and demand peace from our leaders and so forth. The other, actually vast majority of humanity will either just be going to work every day and staying at home, watching TV, they won't care as much, or they'll be against it, But for the most part, there will be a huge body of people that will be marching for change. And now, in terms of the whole, who cares, if this civilization is destroyed? Well, Tao, I want to tell you right now, from the Benjamin Creme was a painter, and the picture that he painted in all of his literature, when people said they had that same kind of attitude, it was not very pretty. What would happen to all of us, actually, if we do destroy ourselves? There's a lot more to the planet than just us. It's a very arrogant thought to think, well, just if we kill ourselves off, the mosquitoes and the roaches will go on. That's not true. Every kingdom will perish on this planet. And that's humanity, below humanity, but also above humanity. They're not going to perish, but it's going to end the plan of God on this planet. And so that's a pretty awful thing. But for all of us, what it would mean for us personally, since we're all thinking about ourselves in this regard, is we would have to go and start incarnating on some of the lower planets like Pluto. I know scientists in their arrogance say that Pluto is not a planet, but it is a planet, and there is humanity on that planet. But I will tell you from what I've heard about the people living on Pluto right now, they're not very nice. And it's not a very nice place to live. It's not like going to, it's like worse than going to New Jersey and having to incarnate in New Jersey. Can you imagine how awful that would be? I mean, no, it's dark, it's cold, They're a violent species on that planet right at this moment in time, and we would have to go back, and it would take us millions of years of pain and suffering, living in a cold, dark, dismal planet to get back to the where we are today. And then we would, I don't know if we would have to come back to the planet and start repopulating this planet again and then start over again here. I don't know how that would look, but why? We don't have to do that. All we have to do is share the world's resources. What's wrong with that? You know what I'm saying? Now, some people, like our world leaders, would think it would be the most worst thing in the world because they're holding on to the power. And when Maitreya starts to speak for the people and galvanize the people, as, let's say, the Buddha described him as, doing, which would be to inspire and galvanize humanity to build a brilliant golden civilization based on righteousness and truth. And that's exactly what he is going to do. So, but Maitreya would say he already knows when asked if we, when he asks us to change, right, he already knows the choice that humanity is going to make. But Maitreya is not an ordinary person. He's presenting himself as an ordinary person, but he's anything but. So to think that Maitreya can't galvanize humanity because nobody else is doing it at this moment in time does not mean it can't be done. And if you think of people even like Martin Luther King and Gandhi, they were, from the master's point of view, babies, mere babies. In fact, actually in the Bible, when it says out of the mouths of babes will come the truth, they were not talking about infants. They were talking about men and women at the level of Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And see how much they inspired groups of people to come together for change, peacefully actually, but they did it. And they were even at the level that they were at, which was very high compared to most of us. But from the master's point of view, they were just babies. Maitreya is not a second-degree initiate. He's not a third-degree initiate. He's not a fourth-degree initiate like Jesus was back in Palestine. He's not a fifth-degree initiate. He's not between a fifth and the sixth like most of these masters are. He's not even a seventh-degree initiate. He's almost an eighth-degree initiate. And you have none of us do, really, myself included, have any idea the consciousness that Maitreya has. And to be out, open, in the public eye, speaking on TV, speaking to groups of people directly, and not through a disciple like he did through Jesus, while he's still in the Himalayas. We have no idea the outcome of that. He does. And what he's saying is that, yes, he's going to inspire humanity to see the need for peace. And we're going to have to do it. As Benjamin Creme's master said, each step of the way is going to have to be endorsed by man. And all the comments that you put up about Maitreya helping us or saving us and how are we going to do that, Maitreya is not going to save us. He's going to inspire humanity to save ourselves. We have it in us to do it. All the problems of the world are man-made, and therefore can be solved by man. We just have to implement our will, as Maitreya put it. So anyway, I hope that helps. In terms of your last question you wanted me to answer in the next video, I think you said, let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, so I've answered a few of your questions, Tao, but the one that you said, please, in the next upload, answer about what scriptures prophesied in all tribes, almost all religions, tribes of the war. You gotta understand, man, that I really don't understand what you're asking me, but it sounds like it's above my pay grade. So maybe you can re-ask the question or reference something that you're trying me to answer. But from what you just wrote down there, I really don't understand what you're saying, so I do apologize. But I tried to answer some of your other questions, so hopefully that helps. But anyway, and then lastly, before I get into it, this comes from Donald Sweet, and it says, keep in mind that although that officer is definitely guilty of a crime, an 80-year-old woman would not be almost 7 feet tall and committing a crime, hence having the need for the police to be called on her for committing a crime, all the while having multiple priors and warrants for committing violent crimes. So the comparison is unfair, and not relative to what the officer was going through. The crimes that these people are committing, destroying our nation, are having far worse effects than the crime that instigated the whole embarrassing debacle. I pray for a time when more than 1/8 of mankind will actually think and behave rationally and use intelligence instead of straight effing ignorance. God help us. Well, Donald, I guess we can agree to disagree on this one, but it's not an embarrassing debacle. It's a tragedy. I mean, even, I saw this meme that of George Floyd, and it had all his crimes listed and how many times he's been in and out of prison and so forth. And that is what it is, right? That's not the point. The point is that the man tried to pass off a phony 20 and was killed by the police in it. But all his crimes that were listed, as bad as they were, and as much time as he had to spend in prison, not one of them in our country, the punishment is death by asphyxiation without due process, or even with due process. So what I was saying was that racism is the dehumanization of one race to another. And they would not have done that to even a white male the same age with doing the same crime. And if they did do that, they would be dehumanizing that person too, because he's a criminal, But these protesters who are marching for justice have a grievance and they have a voice. I'm not talking about the looters. That's they have to deal with their crimes and their karma in their own way, right? But the people who are marching peacefully to see real change in this country have a right to be heard and not tear gassed. And so the other thing too is, because I'm a middle-aged white male, and Donald, I'm just gonna assume, it's just an assumption that we're probably in the same generation and racial makeup, right? It's important in this situation to stop talking and just listen, and listen to what they're saying. And when you do that, you'll see that they want justice. That's what they want. They don't want to be able to have their to be choked in the middle of the street in front of 3 other officers. There's no reason for them to do that. And to have him, just have their, knee on their neck, the way that the Israelis do to the Palestinians all the time and so forth. I mean, it's dehumanization from one group, and it needs to stop. So I hope that helps. I know you might not like what I said. You might not agree with what I said, but I think it's important to think about. Now, the article I want to read, Continuity of Consciousness, goes in lines of some of the questions that people have been asking about what happens after we die, but it also goes, there was a question from Jules about more exploration of the spiritual dimensions and so forth, and I guess maybe this does kind of answer it a little bit, so hopefully this helps. All right. And this is from Benjamin Creme's Master's article. And again, if you find his articles just as illuminating as I do, you might want to pick it up on Amazon yourself. The Master Speaks by Benjamin Creme and Share International. Within humanity today, a growing number of people are achieving continuity of consciousness and are thus retaining the experiences of the sleep state. This makes for a faster evolution, as no time is lost in waiting for the filtering down of information to the brain to take place. It also ensures the reception of more accurate information, leading to more correct action and results. This is the way forward for humanity. Until now, the break in consciousness between the waking and sleeping states has proved an obstacle to large-scale advance. More than anything else, it has kept humanity in ignorance of the true nature of reality and consequently their superstition and fear. Nearly a third of life is spent asleep, and much information is given and received during that period. Many are the experiences which may be had and known, enriching the life of every individual. Never before on a large scale has the opportunity been present for a gradual shift in consciousness to take place. Already, a large group stands ready to achieve this continuity, lacking only the practical techniques for its achievement. Soon, steps will be taken to make more known and available the information already given on this subject. Much has been imparted, which awaits study and application. Few today realize the treasure chest of instruction which has been recorded and published. Mental polarization is the key to this achievement. Correct alignment of the astral and physical bodies provides the basis on which mental polarization can gradually be built. This achieved, continuity of consciousness naturally unfolds. There are, of course, degrees of this achievement, and the process covers a considerable period of time. Much has been written about the need for spiritual detachment. This quality most readily provides the field for the correct interpretation of phenomena and information carried over from the sleep state. Otherwise, despite continuous consciousness, much distortion can ensue. Spiritual detachment results from decentralization. Through service and correct meditation, the orientation of the disciple shifts from his limited self to the not-self. This begets a state of divine indifference in which desire subsides and the true inner man can appear. With his appearance, the way is open for continuity of consciousness to begin. Safely, the out-of-body experiences can be correctly registered and known, and a new chapter opened in the life of the disciple. The halls of learning or of wisdom become more conscious fields of knowledge, depending upon the level on the path. So far, we have discussed only the continuity of consciousness between the sleep and waking states. A further expansion of awareness awaits the disciple who can bridge the gap between two great areas of experience to which we give the names life and death. Life alone exists. Death is but the name for another level of experience of life, continuous and unbroken except in man's limited consciousness. The time is coming in which the experience we call death, the intervening period, and the return to outer manifestation will be recalled in full consciousness by man. Then will man lose the fear of death and reap the harvest of inner planes of knowledge and bliss in total awareness of his true identity as a son of God. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.